Hey, notifications are going out. Must really be happening. I need a longer version of this song. I've said it before. I'll say it again. I like it. Michael's ready to go. Good morning and happy Thursday, which is Friday Junior. And because there is no show tomorrow, I won't be in the office. It's FriYAY Junior. It's the FriYAY episode on Thursday. Yes, it is. This is Ask a Traffic Cop, that show on the internet where I answer your traffic and police questions. My name is Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I work at traffic safety programs. That's where I'm sitting right now. And traffic safety programs deals with traffic safety campaigns and education and stuff and things related to traffic and police stuff at Traffic Services, which is the citywide traffic unit for the City of Toronto. Not to be confused for the police in California, France, Australia, the UK, or anywhere else that allows lane sharing, because that's really what I've been inundated with comments on our TikTok about. It appears that there are a great many people who have seen our, well, actually about 2.7 million, maybe it's 2.8 million now, views of a very quick video that says that lane sharing on a motorcycle, lane splitting, lane sharing, not permitted, not legal, and it doesn't specify where. But I thought, with the Toronto police, well, anyway, if you haven't seen it, let me play it for you right now. Let me make sure it's not too loud. Hang on a second. Here we go. And you wonder why lane splitting is illegal. That's why lane splitting is illegal. Thank you for coming to my TED. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Favorite thing to say on the internet so far? Yeah, some people were a little bit shook by that because wherever they are, it's legal, and they want to share with me that I'm wrong and sharing disinformation. Well, folks, it's not disinformation, but it is localized information. I really want to, make it clear for anyone watching who does not know this, but I'm Canadian. I work for Canadian Police Service. We're in Ontario, Canada, and the laws may be different where you are. So my disclaimer is that if you don't live in Ontario and you are asking information, please let me know what you're asking for, because someone asked me a question, their username was Nova Scotia. I assume they're in Nova Scotia. I Google the information to get them the accurate information, but generally speaking, when I'm speaking to, when it comes to laws and fines and processes, it's things local to Ontario. When it comes to criminal matters, that's federal. That's a Canada-wide criminal code. So when we talk about criminal matters, that applies everywhere in all jurisdictions. But it's good to know. And we have lots of people who watch for around the world, and not just because people saw that particular viral video, but because we have audiences who tune in for whatever reason works for them. But we have an international audience, and hello to everybody who's not in Toronto or Ontario or in Canada even. I hope everyone's having a great day, and I appreciate you all. What's going on here? TikTok is rolling in. Neha, good morning, and congratulations on graduating and the job offer, by the way. Looking for an update. Lots of people joining. Not a lot of chatter yet, but we have lots to talk about as we get into this FriYAY celebration. Let's start with the always important Vision Zero enforcement team. Did my post go out? It did go out. It was a little late this morning, but it did go out. Today being the 15th of June, FriYAY Junior, or FriYAY, it's Thursday. It's Thursday the 15th, but again, we're celebrating, trying to get my head on straight for what day it is. They are in the city, and they'll be in the city tomorrow too, because they do that. They go out and they write tickets. Vision Zero enforcement team is a dedicated group of officers that go out and change driver behavior one ticket at a time. No hugs are issued. Just to be clear, no hugs. They give out tickets because tickets tend to be the best way to change driver behavior. People say that it doesn't work, or at least a few people, very vocal on Twitter, say that enforcement doesn't work. Well, I got news for you. It does work. Not always, but it is very effective for the vast majority of people. If you get a ticket, it is that bad time, that not happy feeling, that tends to motivate you not to do it again. That said, there are people who don't learn or don't care, and they continue to offend, and they continue to earn more tickets. Where will they be today? Well, they're going to be spending time in 23 Division and 41 Division. Those are the neighborhoods of Rexdale, Jamestown, Martin Grove, Dorset Park, Kennedy Park, Birchcliff, Cliffside, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. We announce these locations. We put it on our Twitter, our Facebook, our LinkedIn, our where else? Instagram. We tell people where we're going to be because we want the people who live there to know that we're taking care of them. We're there, we're concerned, and we go to different areas because we can't be everywhere all the time, but we focus on areas based on the information that comes from collision reports. We see high risk issues, and that's how we move around. That's how we determine where we need to spend our time. And it's good. It's good stuff. They issue a lot of tickets. How many tickets? We'll talk about that in a little while. I hadn't thought about talking about that today, but we're gonna do it. I'll pull up a spreadsheet or two and see, because I haven't talked about it in a while. In any case, I can now close this window and talk about how to ask us questions. If you're watching and you are on any of the platforms we're on, well, hello and good morning, and thank you for tuning in. If you don't already follow us, please do. If you're on TikTok, if you're on Twitter, it doesn't matter. Like and subscribe and follow and share and retweet, whatever it is that's available to you, we would appreciate it. Our goal is to help as many people as possible, and if you share our show, well, you're helping us share good information. We are information, and we like that. If you're watching on TikTok, we've got the magical producer, JD, in the background, who is taking your questions and sharing it from one platform to another. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, if you're on Kick, which is a new platform for us, we can actually see your messages and put them on screen, which we will do very shortly. If you're on Instagram, I see you. I see the comments. That's a separate computer or a phone, and I got to pay attention to you. Yesterday, I ignored you until the very end, and I apologize. Try and be better. We are on Twitter, but Twitter is a one-way valve for us. We can see nothing that you comment. We can't see it while we're live. It won't show up, and we have no one who's cutting and pasting. Maybe that's something we do in the future. In the meantime, if you want to find us and interact with us and ask us questions, that sort of thing, go to trafficcop.ca. When you do that, you are able to find us on all our other platforms. And that makes life a lot easier. You see, when you come through on Twitch, we hit a button, and good morning, happy almost Friday from Zombie. Happy almost Friday back. Happy FriYAY Jr. All right. Michael wants to know, right off the bat, if Tesla is so great because of autonomy, it should constantly monitor and not allow any Highway Traffic Act violations. You make a really good point. Autonomous vehicles should not be allowed to break the law. It should be a condition. But here's the thing, a Tesla is not currently autonomous. It's a kind of, sort of, it's beta software that they call full self-drive that allows you to essentially supervise the active, how do you describe this? It's a level 2.5. Not really level 3 according to some, because the insurance is still yours, the responsibility is still yours, whereas as in a level 3 vehicle, technically the motor vehicle company that is operating the motor vehicle and supervising it is responsible. Their insurance is responsible. They are the ones operating. Nothing would be required from you to do. But this requires you to still weigh in, have regular contact with the steering wheel, head and eyes up. You are the driver. They are not doing everything. And I don't really like the idea of trusting a beta software package. It's kind of weird that it's even on the road. That's my story. We have Akela Draconis with greetings and salutations. We got Big Jeff Fresh and says, I saw that video and just feel like the motorcyclist was lucky. All the traffic was relatively slow. So we're talking about the lane splitting. In that particular scenario, it was a somewhat full-size bike. I don't know if it was a Harley or other kind of bagger. That is not an unreasonable bike to lane split in. And I got to make it clear, I have lane split on a police motorcycle because I was going places. I go places when I'm on a police motorcycle. It's part of policing, and we can do that. We don't want everyone doing that, and we certainly have to use extreme caution with a low speed differential when we're doing it, because people do the darndest things you don't want them doing when they're in a car, like texting and driving and being generally unaware of their surroundings and being off in la la land. So what am I trying to get at? The reason it's illegal is it's unsafe. In Canada, no one allows it. Other places in the world, they do allow it. Do you know what's interesting? You have twice the chance of rear-ending somebody in a collision as a motorcyclist splitting traffic, according to stats that I was reading this morning. Because as everyone yells at me that it's legal, I am compelled to read more things about different jurisdictions. Just the way I'm wired. I want to know more about what people are saying. It is very interesting. I have less of an issue, although it's still illegal, with low-speed lane splitting. Like if it was absolutely non-moving traffic, and it was safe to do things, would I have a personal problem with it? Probably not. Picture this. I had this conversation this morning. If the motorcycle was off, the engine was not running, and you were pushing it through those spaces, and traffic was just not going anywhere, not 1 inch an hour, nowhere, dead stop, would it be an issue? Would it be illegal? So I can understand some arguments that sometimes in unusual events, but as a rule, it's unsafe and it shouldn't be done. Okay. Gummy Bear Trev says, good morning from Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Good morning to you. It is always nice to have people from outside of the local saying hello. And if you're from elsewhere, shout out. We'd love to hear where you're from, where you're at. And you got people like, we have a lot of regulars, and some of them travel all over the place for work. And I get shout outs of, hey, I'm here today, here and there tomorrow type thing. Okay, Bad Cat, Good Dog. Do you think that tickets should be scaled to income? We had this conversation in the office. Ooh, and here's a person that I can bring into the conversation on that very topic. If you're watching our Twitter feed, we had a little conversation yesterday, and my friend Brian Max, who's a man of many talents. Not only is he the co-host of Dave's Corner Garage, but he is a race car team owner. Is that? Let's bring him in and have a talk about it. Hello there.
Good morning.
Good morning. You were blurry and slow for a second, but it looks like you've caught up and it's working. How's it going?
It's nonstop racing all day long, every day.
But that's a good thing.
Yes, I suppose it is.
So the question that came in just before, and we'll get back to regular stuff, but I figure we should finish off with Bad Cat. What do you think about tickets scale to income? Because this is, I think, in the Netherlands or somewhere not here. Someone received a ticket for, I think, speeding in the $150,000 range because this person happened to be quite wealthy with a high income. And how do you motivate people not to break the law if they're only paying $110 or $500 for a ticket?
Well, I think that's more of a cultural thing in that case. I think that may work in some countries. I don't think it would ever fly in this country. I think that would be, and certainly in the United States, I think that would be any politician that would propose that would be political suicide.
I agree with you there, but do you think that would actually correct behavior? If it let's say magically it was implemented, do you think it would solve our issues?
No, absolutely not. I've been around the world a couple of times, and it would have to be truly egregious in terms of scaling a penalty to someone's income to really make a dent, because anybody who's wealthy, they treat parking tickets, speeding tickets, and any resulting insurance increases as just the cost of doing business or whatever. It's just a nuisance.
It's funny you say that, because it's parking in the club district that people more often than not say or use as example, saying it's a tax on the poor, because if you can't afford it, you do the right thing. But if you can't afford it, well, hey, who cares? It's just an expensive parking spot.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and the very wealthy people I know just don't care. They'll park anywhere, and they'll take the ticket, and at some point they pay them. It's the nature of the beast when you're in that position. It's just it's a thing. It's a small nuisance. And what would a speeding ticket have to be to it would have to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And again, that would be political suicide, right? Well, and the sort of folks that can afford those kind of tickets also have political connections too. I just don't see it working.
But it is.
I just don't see it working in this part of the world.
Yeah. It isn't.
I think we're getting a little more philosophical than we need to be. We're a little more esoteric than being practical.
And at the end of the day, I think it's like locks. They say locks keep honest people out, because those who choose to break the law will find a way or continue to do it, despite the fact that there are laws preventing it. Very often we talk about laws like, we should ban murder because then it would stop. And if we ban collisions, they will stop. And if it's very interesting conversations along those same lines. At the end of the day, you need to change people's hearts and minds and have them buy into why this is important, and that's a whole different conversation.
It is, and that's one of the this. I mean, just driving is why I've joined you today, and this whole idea. So, I don't know if increased penalties are really going to make much of a difference. Practically speaking, and I mean, it's behavior that we're looking to change, and just it seems like with every there's a new generation of drivers, and they're doing the same things. That hasn't happened.
Well, it's
It hasn't
Groundhog Day,
changed,
but
sorry.
it's generational Groundhog Day.
Yeah,
All the stuff that we did
absolutely.
when we were young is being done by people who are now young, and we want to get out ahead of it so we don't see a senseless loss of life on our roads. And we do see far too many people dying. What's going on in the racing world? Because I know we don't have a lot of time with you, but what's going on with the racing? I know the Detroit home team did some amazing stuff recently. I've been following it. The game on, I say the game, the whole business on Twitter and all the successes.
Yeah, well, it's all over social media now, and I do have to give a major shout out to Juliet, who handles our social media now. Thankfully, I don't have to do it, but she's done an amazing job. And speaking of amazing jobs, it was our first race in Detroit 2 weeks ago at the Detroit Grand Prix. First race coming together and operating as a team, and everybody did an amazing job. From the crew to our drivers, to our physiotherapist, to our PR guy. I'll even give him credit. And long story short, we out of a field of 22 in a very, very competitive field, we finished third, and got to taste the champagne and all of that. And it's been a whirlwind ever since.
This is the photo, I guess. Is this the big G? Is it the photo of the pre or post
That's
champagne?
that's on the podium. Yeah, so I think I might be holding the champagne bottle in that photo.
I'm looking. That is you with the champagne. Actually, you would remember. FriYAY's competition.
Day's competition. So my partner's parents are from Pakistan. He's American born. And when we were it's a long story, but we were forced into coming up with a brand finally. We needed a name and we had to get it done. And we had all these working names that were just horrible. And somebody came up with FriYAY. And FriYAY is the Punjabi word for fast.
Makes sense. And you are in fact fast. But you're fast all the time.
Yeah, we proved it on the racetrack.
That's awesome. Somebody yesterday made a comment, and I figured this was a great opportunity to talk about when you test vehicles, because for those watching and you have no idea who you are, you also are a journalist writing and reviewing motor vehicles, and some of the videos that you have include cars that go fast, and sometimes you go fast in them. And the question was, how do you find areas to test these vehicles safely without breaking the law?
Do I have to answer that question?
Well, I think they were upset that we're friends and that you sometimes go fast, but more often than not, you're in an environment where there's a closed road or there's something going on in order for you to do it safely.
Yeah, I mean, for example, I was at the racetrack this week, and that was a completely different thing. It was a little more performance driving oriented than it was road car oriented. The one thing I've been racing since I was a kid. I've been producing high performance driving events for basically 3 decades. I have been teaching high performance driving, and all of those things add up to me being comfortable in an environment where there's nobody around, and if there is, I don't do those certain things. So under a broader perspective of the law, there may be some gray areas, but for the most part, there's basically zero risk. So I'm not.
I was going to say that when the few times that I've been out with you when you've or seen when you're testing stuff, I've never seen you do reckless, crazy things, and you have been on closed road situations. So, the number of people that are driving, it's amazingly, and this is not to excuse speeding, but the number of people who are speeding every day, I found it very interesting that someone was questioning whether or not you were ever in excess of the speed limit. But that's the question that I get too: do I speed? And I can honestly say I do not. But that's a different thing. I really do not.
Well,
speed.
No, well, and absolutely no. But there are times where it's inadvertent, and for example, my perspective is different than yours. And if I'm driving, for example, I got pulled over for speeding near the airport, and it was one of those situations where we've got 3 broad lanes of traffic, and I'm driving in accordance to what I'm seeing visually, and not really paying attention to the speed limit. From my perspective, the speed limit should have been 80 kilometers an hour. In fact, it was 50.
Oh,
so so no traffic, broad lanes, straight, clear line of sight. So I crossed an intersection or whatever, and the speed limit changed. So I get pulled over and have a nice chat with the PL officer, and no ticket.
Not every interaction with the police is a ticket.
No, it's not, and it is, and I was straight up with the officer, and I said, whatever speed I was doing, I thought that was appropriate for this road, and he's like, yeah, I can see that the speed limit's whatever it was 50, and you're doing 70 something, and I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate why you pulled me over. Here's my paperwork, and anyway,
at the end of the day,
so this is the other thing. I have a clean driving record, and there's nothing, there's no red flags on my driving record, so that when I hand over my license, it's like, okay, well, this guy doesn't have a habit of doing silly things, or at least getting
not on the track,
silly things.
Unless you're on the track.
Yeah,
which isn't silly.
Yeah, absolutely,
it's professional.
It is, and I spent a whole 40 minutes on the racetrack this week. Not that I need to spend any more time, but I was testing some new technology, and it's absolutely the place to explore the limits of the car, because the car that I was driving, absolutely, there's no way you can explore its limits on the public roads anywhere. Like you can't. And the racetrack is the only place to do that. And the problem, this is, we always talk about this, but the problem is when you're dealing with drivers who do not have performance driver training and they want to push the limits of these high performance cars, they have no idea what that limit is and then how to deal with it. And typically what I know exactly what happens when people are going really fast and they end up in a crash. I mean, I know exactly what they've done, and it's pretty easy, and it's because they've never been performance driver trained. And on top of that, when you're on public roads going really fast, there's so much going on. It's not like a racetrack where it's a controlled environment. There are other vehicles, there are intersections, there's dogs maybe crossing the road. People,
there's so much more.
So there's too much information for your little monkey brain to process, and you just can't. So and that combined with the fact that they don't know how to handle a car, ends up in crashes and sometimes people getting hurt, which is really unfortunate.
Are you saying that not everybody on the road is qualified and skilled as a driver?
I'm going to take the position that and I hate to say it, and please throw all the hating comments, but I'm a better driver than 99.99% of drivers on the road.
But you are a professionally trained and experienced racer. You've won awards, and you've raced everything. Like, you've not only raced cars, but you've raced bicycles, have you not?
Yeah, I've raced bicycles, so I love having the conversations with cyclists too. I'm a national champion on a bicycle as well, but I'm a two-time U.S. national champion in a car. I've raced everything from the little micros that we had here to Vipers. Didn't do too badly in the Viper, and I've raced off-road trucks, so I can deal with asphalt. I can deal with jumping vehicles in the air. I've kind of done it all. The only thing I really don't do is drag racing.
Yeah, I'm good with not racing at all. I'm okay with it. But it is
well,
interesting.
one of these days we have to take you out on the racetrack.
I look forward to the opportunity. They make big race cars, right? For big people. I'm tall.
Well,
I don't.
you could fit in our race cars, and you could get in and out no problem. And you'd probably see better than I can. So in the race car, the seat's right on the floor, so you've got lots of headroom.
Okay.
And for me, I sit so low the dashboard's like here. I can't see over
You
the
don't get a
dash.
booster? No telephone
No,
book?
no.
Okay. A bunch of questions are coming in. By the way, for anyone who's just tuning in, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. And joining me on screen is Brian Max, who is a man of many talents, as I said earlier, race car driver, team owner, radio host, journalist. I don't have your name ready to go on the screen, which I should correct. But this was sort of an impromptu thing where we were chatting last night. And you said, I could pop in for a little bit.
Yeah.
We are going to answer questions, or I am
Yes.
answering questions, doing the regular show. But a question for you: did you see the video that's gone viral about lane sharing on motorcycle?
I saw that briefly, and you and I speak about that often. And I spend a lot of time in Southern California, where it's legal, and motorcycles are on the road all year long. So drivers are aware, the motorcyclists are aware, and for the most part, there in Southern California, or at least California, there's a 10-mile-an-hour delta that's permitted, and that's it.
That's a speed.
So I generally don't
differential.
Yeah.
Just for anyone watching, it means that you can go no more than 10 miles per hour faster than the vehicle that you're passing.
Yeah. So, and in general, in California, that's what I see. So one of the mental tricks that I do, I remember as I'm leaving the airport to go pick up whatever car, it's like, oh yes, lane splitting's legal here. So, keep an eye out. But here, it seems to be on the increase. I see it more and more. We have two issues. One, drivers aren't expecting it, and two, motorcycles are generally on the road during the warmer months. So in the winter, we've got drivers who are not expecting to see it anyway, and not that it's legal here. But then in the summer, when motorcyclists try to do that, drivers aren't expecting it. And unfortunately, a couple summers ago, I saw one of those situations happen. And a friend and I were driving on the 401 Mississauga-ish. And a gentleman on a motorcycle was probably doing 60, 70, 80 kilometers an hour faster than traffic.
Wow.
And then when he finally encountered traffic coming to a stop, somebody in a car changed lanes. And skiing, they like to talk about a yard sale, but bike parts, shoes, his helmet was long gone. And when we got there, he was on the ground and survived, and that's why I'm talking about it. I don't know the outcome, but it wasn't good. And those two factors combined, the fact that it's not legal and drivers aren't expecting it, is practically makes it not a good idea, let alone what the law says.
100%. I was doing some digging today. Apparently, you are twice as likely on a motorcycle when lane splitting to rear end somebody, oddly enough. The stats apparently support that. And there's stats and studies and articles to support both, not lane sharing and lane sharing. So it's one of those things where the jury seems to be still out, but it remains illegal here. And there could be some serious consequences, because careless driving, stunt driving, or even dangerous driving, depending on the kind of behavior seen. And I find it interesting to hear how important it is for your motorcycle not to overheat, and how that is why it should be legal. Somebody made a comment saying, stop the madness of reduced speed limits on wide highways because of a bylaw ruling. I have news for that person. Bylaws do not govern speed limits.
That's
highways.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. And given that I drive in different jurisdictions, our speed limits in Ontario are artificially low. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree, but I drive everywhere, and they are artificially low for I think one reason, and it's unfortunate.
Well, my thing is this: whatever they are, and I have a problem with people determining that they're going to do what they want because they want to. If the law says 50 is the limit, that's the limit, and if you don't like it, don't drive here. I have no problem with them changing the limit up or down. Whatever it is, and that's my take on it. I'm not going to argue that 110 or 100 is going to be dramatically safer. in either direction. I don't really care about 10 kilometers, but I do care about people choosing to break the law. That's my whole thing. I'm a cop. That's how I'm wired. If I don't enforce 10 over, why do I enforce 20 over? At what point should I start enforcing? To me, it really makes things difficult. So I drive the limit. And I looked down. I was doing 5 kilometers too fast. I caught myself speeding. I had a minor heart attack. I'm like, I need to be this ultimate example, even if it annoys people. And sometimes it annoys people a lot, and sometimes that makes me smile. But that doesn't change the fact that I try and lead by example.
Yeah, of course. And for clarity, in the city, I think for the most part, speed limits are appropriate. There's a couple of places that aren't appropriate, but I live in the middle of the city, and given the attentiveness of drivers and skill level of drivers, those speed limits are appropriate, and I can't really complain. Outside the city, in areas like where I grew up, where I grew up, there are speed limits now where gorgeous roads are marked at 50, and when I grew up, they were 80.
And that's a major thing. And the idea is to protect vulnerable road users. And the theory behind it is if you hit a pedestrian at lower speeds, their survivability goes up tremendously. And I get that. It is trying to do two things. One, make sure people survive. And two, create opportunities for the lowest common denominator to operate a motor vehicle safely. And that's a thing, because there are people who are terrified of speed and are put into situations where they have to navigate these roads, but they do so too quickly and for their skill level, and then it becomes dangerous. People say, well, those people shouldn't be driving, but yeah, well, what can I say? I can't. Somebody says, slow driving causes more problems on the road than going over. I don't necessarily agree with that either, but if everyone's doing 30 over the limit and someone who is considered slow driving is doing the limit, the problem isn't the person doing the limit, the problem is the person speeding, and that's a whole other argument that people don't want to, no one will concede either side. So
no, what I find is those drivers are more inattentive than anything else. They're not deliberately choosing to go slower than the flow of traffic, which is a separate argument from the speed limit. They're not deliberately choosing to do that, but in fact, they're just simply inattentive and not very skilled. Those are the kind of folks we find in the left lane of a 3-lane segment of the 401.
The people who are really asleep at the wheel, not actually unconscious asleep, but effectively not paying attention and just inattentive. That's a problem. I agree, those are problems. I want to jump to a couple of questions, and I don't know. Again, let me know when you got to go, because I know you're just visiting.
Yeah,
you're going to
shortly. There's a couple of questions I'm seeing here that I found.
What do you want to jump on? I think you can click it.
I don't know if you're seeing the same ones.
Is
that how it works?
Yeah, you should be able to. Does that not let you do it?
Work. No, I don't have the rules.
I got to make you a co-host.
The tools here.
What's the one?
Okay. So the question is, will lane filtering ever become legal? Now, does that mean lane splitting with motorcycles? I'm not quite sure what that means. I was curious.
Is generally what is being referred to is when traffic is absolutely stopped and a motorcycle filters to the front of the pack so that they can leave, and it's not driving through moving traffic with a speed differential. It is moving to the front of the pack at a stop.
I also see that as well, and I appreciate the motorcyclists asking that question. I mean, I totally understand.
I actually, as much as it sounds like I'm going to contradict my lane sharing thing or lane splitting thing, I actually don't have an issue with this in particular. It is illegal. It is not permissible. I would say that I could justify it. It's not that I would let you go from doing it. It's that I would support a change of law to allow it. But remember, when you're filtering and you hit a vehicle, you're responsible for that. That's a problem. If you are simple, and here's where I would have no issue with it and would not enforce. If you were simply, because the argument is that you don't want to be the last vehicle in the pack, if there were to be a collision, to be rear-ended as a motorcyclist, major problem. So if you're simply going to tuck between the two cars in front of you to essentially hide and utilize their bumpers as protection, I get that. I would support that. Actually driving through a pack of 20 people, less of a support for me, because even if it's okay and safe, you're now upsetting everybody, because there's a belief that I got here first, here I am, you're in line, stay behind me. There's no real benefit, not substantial. You're going to save like a minute when you go. So I get it. I have less of an issue with it. Will it become legal? I don't know. They've suggested it. It's just never gone anywhere.
The question that just came in is something I can answer in an interesting way about ticket in Saskatchewan will affect my Ontario record. So and this goes back to one of the first points we raised, and I think you may not enjoy the answer, but you'll appreciate how a friend of mine deals with it. So the answer is likely, and I don't know, you would know, but whether Saskatchewan has reciprocity with Ontario, and whether they share that information. So that's the answer to the question. Do you know for certain?
It's fairly sporadic as to which ones do not include their information. It may have changed. The world of the internet has really closed the loop. Back when it was paper trail, there were very few some provinces didn't communicate. I believe everybody's pretty much on board at this point. And if you get a ticket, we're going to see it more than likely.
Okay, so part B. My answer, part B, is one of those folks that I was speaking of earlier who can't afford a $200,000, $500,000 speeding ticket. Doesn't really matter what it is. Has 2 driver's licenses. One in a Canadian jurisdiction, one in a Canadian jurisdiction, and one in another jurisdiction that has no reciprocity with Ontario or Canada or whatever. So when he's pulled over in the opposite jurisdiction, he provides a Canadian driver's license. And when he's in, well, I'm just letting you know how well
I know what happens.
Do
it's actually an offense to carry 2 driver's licenses to have. When you move to another jurisdiction, you're supposed to surrender one or destroy it. It becomes invalid. In fact, if you are operating a motor vehicle in Ontario and you are an Ontario licensed driver and you surrender an American license, for instance, we would not accept it. You would be operating on the Canadian one, the Ontario one. We would ignore it. And if you were suspended in Ontario and try and use one from another jurisdiction, you would be driving while suspended. So there's there's actually a charge specific to driving on a license of another jurisdiction when suspended on. There's a whole bunch of laws. You know why? Somebody's done it somewhere.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of esoteric laws as well. I discovered. Again, years ago when I was pulled over for speeding once again and didn't receive a ticket. I was driving a U.S. registered and plated and insured car, and it didn't have a kilometer readout. So I was just driving according to the conditions of the road, which turned out to be slightly faster than the posted speed limit, because I wasn't really paying attention. It's not that I was speeding egregiously. I was just driving and.
Oh, we had a hiccup. I'm actually really impressed that we haven't had a hiccup until this point, because generally when Brian jumps into the stream, he disconnects every 10 seconds. But so he may pop out and may come back again. Just as a note, Ontario has reciprocity with all provinces, New York and Michigan, according to Cherry. I assume the username it's an icon, and I just assume your username is Cherry. But I was pretty sure that was the case, but I don't like to say things in a definitively. We'll bring him back if he comes back, but he's totally hung up. Don't know what's going on there. He will join us again if he can. But interesting, there's a couple of other comments that came in. Someone's answering about e-bikes. Oh, I think we're back. Let's try that again. Hello again.
We're back. Hello again.
This was the longest run while connected with you without any kind of disconnection.
I know, and of course, it magically happened once again.
It has to.
So to wrap up that story, the officer in the rural area that I was driving advised me that there's a federal law that indicates that a Canadian can't drive a U.S. registered vehicle.
Come again?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a federal law that says a Canadian can't drive a U.S. registered vehicle in Canada.
Oh, in Canada. Sorry, I misunderstood. Yes. I thought yes. So I've actually seized vehicles because of that, and it's a customs and excise. It's a taxation act thing. Essentially, in a situation that I am referring to, someone from Florida had lent their father a motor vehicle registered in Florida. to be used in Ontario, and they had a notarized document saying I give permission to my dad to drive this, and they basically had been driving for 2 years in Ontario with Florida plates illegally. We seized that motor vehicle. They were fined, I think, like $35,000 and had to be towed to the border or pay severe fines.
Wow.
Like fines and taxes. Like there was a whole big thing. It was a BMW SUV. It was a big deal. There was a significant cost involved, and I learned something. I did not know that until I called the RCMP and I seized the vehicle on their say so. It's a real deal thing. So people play a lot of games, insurance fraud and tax fraud. Or avoidance, we won't call it fraud with the tax, but there's consequences. So technically speaking, if someone comes to your house from the States and they are driving their car, you can't even move their car technically. If they are the last car in your driveway, you want to get milk, take your car, not their car, because you're violating the law. Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many little things that we don't talk about often, and that's something I don't think I've ever spoken about on the show.
Yeah, that was a surprise to me, and the officer let me continue on my way driving the vehicle because I was with the registered owner of the vehicle.
That would be the way to do it. Yeah, that would be the out.
Yes.
Very cool. Any racing going on this weekend?
Not this weekend. A couple things coming up, so I've got to jump off shortly because I'm speaking with Ron Fellows, who's a legend in Canadian motor racing, and he's one of the owners at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So they've got a big racing weekend coming up on the 7th, 8th, and 9th at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. That's their Chevrolet Grand Prix, and we are my team is racing on the 8th on the Saturday. So we'll be there in our green and gold Mercedes AMG, and we might have a second one show up.
Ooh!
Finally,
we'll see. If I can make it work, I would like to come out then and see your team go.
Oh, we'd love for you to be our guest, and a lot of it's a cool experience. It's different because I've until this year I've been a fan, and now I'm on the other side of the line. So, then following week is, as you know, the Honda Indy Toronto.
Yes,
and that'll be at Exhibition Place, and it's a big celebration. So I've got. We're considering racing there because we can race in the Canadian Championship, similar to ours, but not. It'll be a one-off race for us, and I've already got several requests for.
Oh, you paused for a second.
Did I go offline?
No, you're back. You're back. I can see you.
Okay, great. So I've got several requests for. Okay, great. So several requests for accommodations while people are in town.
Very cool.
We'll see. But are you planning to be at?
We are going to have a booth at Honda Indy. Yes, official announcement now. We are. And thank you for the reminder because I have to send an email to confirm the booth size. But we are going to be at the Honda Indy. So if you are going to be, for anyone watching, if you want to come say hello during the Honda Indy, I will be there. I'm actually going to be on your show on Saturday of the Honda Indy. I'm going to be coming in, walking over to the studio for Dave's Corner Garage.
Yeah, isn't that convenient? Just cross the train tracks, and you're right at the studio.
Yes, it'll work perfectly. So I will be on your show on that weekend, and I look forward to that.
What does my calendar say? Of course, it's loading. I didn't even realize you were on the show that day.
It only happened as of I think yesterday when your producer.
Oh, okay, that's what.
It was late to the party. Yes. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you jumping in, and I hope that we can hang out those 2 weekends. It'll be a lot of fun. And we'll have lots of information about our upcoming booth and stuff and things. And I guess you've got to go and do your call now with the racing legend himself, and I've got to jump onto a gazillion questions that are likely stacking up. Unless there's something there that you really want to address,
There was one before my connection dropped, which was about pets.
Oh, do pets need to be? How about this one? Do pets need to be restrained while in vehicles, i.e., seatbelt or cage, or can they roam the cab?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got an answer for it, but if you got you are a dog dad.
Well, I don't know. He's always under my desk right here, except when I'm talking. He knows if I'm on the phone or doing this, he leaves. He just gets up and leaves.
He doesn't like the sound of your voice without
any warning. Well, I don't know. So I've got a 70-pound Labrador Retriever, And in the dog car, we've got one of those, whatever seat protector hammock things, and that's where he goes. But I actually don't know what the law is. What I do see way too often is little dogs and driver's laps.
So when it comes to little dogs or any dog on a driver's lap or an animal on the shoulders, like a driver must be driving and must be focused on the road. So careless driving would be the most appropriate charge for someone who had a pet on their lap. Drive while crowded would also be applicable, one or the other or both, but it's not a good idea. Airbags deploy at 200 miles per hour. Bad thing when an animal is between you and that airbag. It could be fatal for the animal. It could be a source of injury for you. But it's not, aside from that particular scenario where the dog is in your lap or in your general area, like under your feet is also bad for a dog. When you're driving, when you're trying to, because in a collision they become projectiles and they become caught up in things. And when you're trying to smash that pedal and turn the wheel and avoid a collision, they're going to prevent you from doing that, not because they're cute and furry, but because they're in the way and they're going to be mush. It's really bad. Don't do that to your animal. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to the animal. It's not fair to anybody else that's going to be victim to your inability to maintain control of your vehicle. And that's really what it's all about. Safest place for your pet when you are traveling is back seat, either tethered or crated. That is according to the OSPCA, Humane Society, and everybody else who talks to the subject of transporting animals in a motor vehicle. So we know what the best thing to do. Could they be in the front seat on the passenger, not touching you, not being involved? Could be, but that's still not ideal.
Maybe legally it's not a great idea.
Legally, not a problem. Not a great idea. Again, airbags still there, crunch zones or crumple zones are still there. Backseat is best for kids until they are 14, so backseat is best for your animals too. And if they are, if they're not tethered, they become projectiles. Bad day at the office. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to cars, there are a couple of manufacturers that come to mind that will actually have optional dividers. So Volvo and like Land Rover and Range Rover come to mind. They will have optional dividers in them, and sometimes I'll actually use them with the dog just to see what that's all about. And mine doesn't care. He just likes going for rides.
Here's one that I think is just a good skill testing question to throw your way, because the GhostCon tows portable, or I think it's portable, not probable, compressors, generators, blasters, etc. Do they need a license plate? I wish I had a da-da-da-da.
Yeah, I would answer yes, but I don't know the law, and that's why we're on this call. You know the law.
So it's interesting because I learned something. Occasionally I do from Sergeant Campbell. This is one that I actually learned from him, and it is that these are towable. These are devices like the diesel generator. It's got wheels. It's a diesel generator. Cement mixer, wheels right to the bumper. It doesn't carry a load. It is a thing. You can't. You don't put things on it to carry it. You don't tie things to it. It is a thing. And because it is a thing, it does not require a license plate. It is itself a thing that is being towed. Like a dolly, that would carry a vehicle where you tow your two front tires. That is not a trailer because it doesn't carry the entire load. So dollies don't require a trailer, at least ones that are registered here. Because I know that I think the ones in Arizona do require a trailer, the ones that you'd rent from, what do they call that company?
U-Haul?
U-Haul.
Yeah.
I think they plate theirs, but that might be for tracking purposes. They may not even be required. But in Ontario, it's not required. But a generator, no, doesn't require it. Again, you put a coffee cup on it, it is now a trailer.
I love that.
Changes you're carrying a load.
Right.
So there you go. So GhostCon, thank you for the entertaining question, because I love it when we actually get to share stuff that's unique or interesting.
Yeah, that was a very good question. I like that.
I like that.
Well,
I like it too.
And at this juncture, I should depart.
I wish you a wonderful day. Have fun.
Yes.
Say hi to the racing legend who doesn't know me, and I will catch you later.
All right. Have a great day. Have a great show.
Take care. Thanks. Okay, so that's cool. It was a very very last minute, just through Twitter saying, "Hey, I got a question for you." And I said, "Well, why don't you come on the show and ask?" He's been on the show before. We've done podcasts together. Is cool. So sorry for the delay in getting to all your questions. I will now continue with questions and that went way longer than I thought it would. But I will not disconnect at 11 o'clock. I will continue to answer your questions because this was sort of a detour that I didn't know where it was going to go. Okay, so where we got about 16 questions in the queue. What are the penalties for exceeding the speed limit in Canada under the Traffic Law Act? Okay, it depends because, first of all, every province in the country has its own Traffic Act or Traffic Safety Act or Highway Traffic Act. They have their own, and in that they have their own schedule for offenses. So when you talk about speed limit in particular, it is based on in Ontario, it's based on a per kilometer calculation, which I believe changes as you scale up. And I would not be able to calculate this without this handy dandy slide rule contraption. But I can tell you that 5 over is $27.50, 10 over is $40. Jump to 20 over, $95 for 20. 30 over is $220. 40 over is $295. But if you're in a speed limit or an area where the speed limit is under 80 kilometers an hour, that becomes stunt driving and also triggers an offense that carries a $2,000 to $10,000 fine and a 15-day vehicle impound and a 30-day suspension on your license. If we go to 45 kilometers over the speed limit, $335. If you go to 49 kilometers over the speed limit, $359, assuming that it has not triggered stunt driving. Because so if you were in a 100 kilometer an hour zone, 49 would be a $359 ticket. Mind you, if you were in a Schedule 2 area, which is a traffic or a community safety zone, that would be $718. If you were to do 1 kilometer more, you are doing 50 over, and that is stunt driving, triggering that $2,000 to $10,000 fine. By the way, it also triggers on conviction, a suspension of no less than 3 years. I keep forgetting this because on your second conviction, it is 3 to 10, no less than 3 years, no more than 10 years suspension. And then on your third conviction for stunt driving, it's a lifetime ban, which I think is appropriate. And I think they should seize and crush cars. I think that's actually a good idea. I think that, as much as it is something that is a serious response to a problem. It's $100,000 fine for a speeding ticket is another solution, but it has to hurt, or people won't it won't deter someone significantly enough. But then again, it won't deter everybody anyway, because we have people who drive without licenses every day. They just don't care. Okay, Zombie says, not a question, but driving to Ottawa the other day, someone was going the wrong way, I assume, in the roundabout that's terrifying. Roundabouts, and I just put up an episode on YouTube waiting for our friends at Turf to see the episode and give commentary. But we do turf tips, and the last episode, actually the last 2 episodes, but we had technical difficulties and had to reshoot it. They're supposed to be safer, and yet there's so much confusion because so many people have no idea how to deal with them. So I could totally see how someone was going the wrong way. And in Ottawa, there's lots of them. We have people who travel from other countries and may be confused. So it is an unfortunate situation. Other people who could be impaired. People could be just making a wrong turn, getting stuck and panicking. Bad things happen when people don't know how to traverse roundabouts. I have mixed emotions about them. I like them because they're efficient. I hate them because people make mistakes in them all the time. Okay. Reasonable to proceed on yellow left turn arrow if done safely. What do you mean? Yellow means stop unless it's unsafe to do so. If you cannot stop safely because you're already you're already committed to the movement, then it would be okay. If you can stop safely, you must stop safely because a yellow light, arrow or otherwise, is the same as red. The instruction is to stop, and you can be charged for failing or disobeying a yellow light, fail to stop. So that's the thing. Are multiple cars allowed to take up the intersection trying to turn left even if there is no room? Well, what do you mean? See, if there's no room, how do multiple vehicles enter the intersection? Now, you are responsible to clear the intersection if the light changes. If you enter it, you're committed to and exiting it. If you cannot exit it, you can be charged. So in a left turn scenario, it is likely that you'll be able to exit it. But if you're taking a chance, if you can't complete your turn and exit the intersection, you could be charged. Okay. Simran has a question. Are sticker decals illegal on the front windshield on the side? On the front windshield on the side. So if they do not impact or if they're not anywhere that the windshield wipers wipe, they're not in the path of the windshield wipers, I have no issue with them. If they meet anywhere that the windshield wiper wipes, that is a problem because that is the area that your manufacturer determined is your field of view. So if your stickers are being touched by your windshield wiper, I would write you a ticket for a view being obstructed. Okay. On a full G and M2 license, what's the alcohol limit if you're operating a car? A car. That's a New York car. So if you're in a car and you're in New York, you can, well, no, we're talking about Ontario and we're talking about Canada actually, when it comes to a full G license. So you have a full G, you're 21 years, you're 21 years old. So you're 21 years old and a full G and you're able to have more than 0. You have no restriction. But then you go and get your M2. Your M2 comes with a learner's restriction of having no more than, 0 blood alcohol content. You can have 0 booze in your system, in your blood, when you are operating a motorcycle, because that's what your learner's permit is for. M is a motorcycle license. So when you're operating a motorcycle license, you're bound by the conditions of the motorcycle endorsement. When you're in a motor vehicle, being a car or truck that falls into the G classification, then you do not have that 0 BAC requirement. And there is confusion there because apparently some people at the ministry or at the Service Ontario are incorrectly sharing information. The M2 designation only applies to the vehicle under the M2 designation. That's it. So do we want you to drive with 0 blood alcohol content? Yes, we'd always prefer that. 0 booze, 0 drugs, whenever operating a motor vehicle, because impairment happens or can happen with any level in your system. It doesn't have to be the legal limit, or could it be 1 drink? Yeah, it could be, because everyone handles alcohol and drugs differently. And by drugs, I mean legal ones, obviously the illegal ones, not okay. Can we put guest kids without a car seat with seatbelt if we don't have their car seat? No. If a child requires a car seat, regardless if you own the kids, if the kids are yours, or if they're guests, the child cannot be transported in a motor vehicle other than a taxi or bus. Not Uber, taxi or bus have an exemption. That is it. If the child requires a booster or a car seat of any kind, they must be in it, or the driver will be charged. And guess what? I stopped somebody and I charged them. They came, oddly enough, to a traffic point that I was at for I think it was Pride Parade. They were trying to get home from church, of all places. They were transporting 4 or 5 children that did not belong to them. Somebody else wanted to go shopping or something after their church event, and this person was doing a good deed of transporting all these children. Multiple kids in one seatbelt, unsafe. Absolutely unsafe. They got 1 ticket and not the 4 or 5, although that would have been more than within my right to lay a charge for each child, but it was incredibly dangerous. And then mom came and collected the kids and had to take their shopping date later. No excuse. Absolutely not. Bus, taxi is your only solution, not Uber. Okay, moving on, because I beat that one up. Can we put 2 kids over 10 years in one seatbelt? No. Same person asking the question. So a motor vehicle can only carry as many people as you have seatbelts for. And you cannot put more than 1 person in a seatbelt. It is unsafe. When backing out of a parking spot, do I have right of way, or do people trying to go by me have it? Well, you're in a parking spot, but you are backing out, and you are effectively going to be turning and reorienting yourself. Yeah, I was saying that right. They have the right of way. You don't. You're effectively turning. You're backing up. You have limited visibility. Is it a good idea for them to avoid the collision? Absolutely. If you back into them, it's absolutely going to be your fault when the insurance company. See, private property, there's no charge that I'm going to lay you on that. You won't get a ticket because it's private property. And if you're talking about backing onto a road, well, you need to yield to traffic on the road. So failing to yield from private drive, regardless of whether you're backing up or driving forward. The deal is that you're responsible. You are entering a roadway or a path that has priority. Now, someone who's driving straight and drives into you while you're backing up, even though that you are in that backing up position, if they clearly drive into you, then they are not doing what they need to do. More comes into play, witness testimony as to whether or not you were driving slowly and they were driving quickly. But insurance companies are going to make that determination on private property. Okay. Is it legal to drive with bare feet? Do we have the option? Do we have anybody yelling and screaming in the comments? Bare feet is legal. It is legal. It is not a good idea, but it is legal. I always say the same thing. You could hurt your toesies when you smash that pedal in an emergency situation. Or if you're in a collision and it's broken glass, things on fire, chemicals that you don't want to, go dip your toes into. All sorts of reasons why you want to have shoes. And as Jason Bourne says, never wear anything you can't run in. So flip-flops, bad idea, they slip off. Footwear matters. Very often people bring multiple pairs of shoes. Listen, in winter, big bulky boots also bad. Bring shoes for driving. Have a pair of shoes that lives in your car. What is the booster seat condition? Okay. Great source of information. This particular one, just going from booster seat to nothing. The answer is it is 80 pounds, 8 years old, or 4'9". Any one of those three makes it legal. Doesn't make it safe. What I would suggest, and I'll put it on screen right now, is going to CPSAC. This is the place where you can get all sorts of great information. Caregiver resources. You can go here and get information sheets about all these things, even the 5-point check for what you should be doing to ensure that they are safe. Oops. I didn't want to do that. That was unintentional. I wanted to take that. Removing source. Okay. That's what I was doing. Oops. So, yeah, they should be able to sit in the seat with their back. They have to meet 8'80" or 4'9" first, but then they should also be able to rest their back properly in the back of the seat and have their knees bend at the appropriate place so that the legs are not going straight, and remain in the back seat until they're 14. Okay. We talked about this. Can you ride two motorcycles side by side on the road? There's no specific law that says you can't. We do it as part of the motor squad. We train to do it. Ideally, you want to stagger because it gives people the ability to have full lane for avoidance. We will switch. We will go one or two. We will give commands and we'll get into formations. Is it legal? I don't think it's illegal. You're not passing through traffic. You're just occupying the entire lane. I don't suggest it for the average person, but I don't think it's illegal. And I don't want to give you a definitive answer because maybe it's a violation that I've not thought of. Obviously, what you do when you're in there could be behavior that could be careless or whatnot. So be very careful. Okay, and I put this up earlier, but I'll put it up again. I will publish this episode as a TPS Traffic Jam and put it on Apple because and all the regular TPS Traffic Jam channels because it was a good chat and I enjoyed it, and we'll do this kind of stuff more. TPS Traffic Jam is going to have a whole bunch of episodes coming out soon. Just we had a bit of a pause, and then there's been time constraints. There's stuff coming down the pipe. Okay, we talked about this. Jeremy, what does Jeremy want to know? It's a lot of information here. So I've seen a lot of racing bicycles riding side by side in the bicycle lanes, and TPS isn't doing anything. It's same with the stand-up scooters in the city of Toronto. Do you have any numbers of tickets that have been given out to both bicycles? Bicycles are permitted to take up a full lane of traffic if they are maintaining the flow of traffic, speed limit, they're not obscuring, obstructing, or whatnot. If it's otherwise, they're supposed to stay to the right. They are supposed to stay to the right. They're also supposed to stop for stop signs and red lights, which many of them don't do. So is TPS doing anything? We issue tickets all the time to cyclists for various things. Is it the focus of what we do? No. We are looking for the big four: speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. Do we also enforce these laws? Yes. If it is an issue, if it leads to collision, if it's a complaint in an area, if it's a regular occurrence, if we see it, all these things, it's we don't have a mission out to dedicate a police officer to enforcement of bicycle stuff Monday to Friday, 9 to, we do a lot of things, and if it's an issue, if it's an obvious problem, it's dealt with. But I don't have stats on bicycle enforcement. Okay, we talked about that. We talked about this. Let me go back and see what's going on. If having legal tint in the U.S. but not legal in Canada and I'm visiting for a month, will I be fine? If your vehicle is considered unsafe for our roads, yes, you could. You could actually, if you're unsafe and you're operating an unsafe vehicle, not only can you be ticketed, you can be instructed not to drive. There's all sorts of issues. Don't drive with illegal tint. What kind of tint do you have? I need to know more. Is it actually illegal here? For instance, anything on the windshield would be illegal, and you can't have it there. If you're passing through, would it be reasonable for an officer to say, it's on the line? Maybe you'll get the discretion. Maybe you won't. It's possible that it would be determined that you're unsafe and they want to seize your plates type thing and have you sent for safety. It's unlikely, being that you're visiting. But you asked if it could. It could. You could have problems. Let's see here. A Harley reminder before 11 o'clock. Well, we didn't make it by 11 o'clock, but the Harley reminder is an important one, and I want to talk about it right now. Support Special Olympics Ontario. You can do that by buying a ticket for a Harley Davidson, or at least one that could lead to winning a Harley Davidson. If you don't have a ticket, you can't win. 1 ticket for 20, 3 tickets for 50, 8 tickets for 100. You buy it by going to harleyraffle.ca, and you know where you can find the harleyraffle.ca link in case you were forgetting it, or you could go to trafficcop.ca, which might be easier for you to remember. And on there, you have that magical link. But you have links to all our social media. I've cleaned it up a little bit, was changing things. All my social media. You've got places where I've been useful links is a little differently organized. These are places where you can get great information. You want to loan a friend a motor vehicle? Check to see if they have a license that's valid. Right there. You click on that and you enter some basic information. Nothing really personal or revealing. It won't tell you where they live. It'll tell you if their license is valid. So do things like renew your license plate. Kind of important. But right now, we're talking about supporting the Harley raffle for Special Olympics Ontario. I like it. I like it a lot. I would actually, if you don't buy it, you considerably increase the chances that I will win. We have a question on Instagram. Is a train horn legal in a car? A horn is legal. A big horn is legal. Whether or not it is being used appropriately to notify people so that vehicles are, for safety, if it's being used appropriately, I probably wouldn't have an issue with it. If you're using it to disturb the peace and be, difficult and a meanie, it could be unnecessary noise. But it's not a too loud horn thing. It cannot be a siren. That's a different thing. But train horn, I don't think it'd be an issue. I met someone years ago at Americade that had converted the left saddlebag to an air compressor holding tank and stuff and had a train horn under their left saddlebag. And my God, was it loud. It was amazing. It was amazing and effective. I have air horns on my motorcycle. They're not train air horns, but they're horns. Is it illegal to install neon headlights and underglow in your car? Headlights, yes, you cannot project light forward of a number of colors. Only yellow and white are permitted. Under the vehicle, Can you have underglow? If you cannot see the bulbs and it is not projecting light outward, only on the road, and the only way to see it is reflecting off the road, I would say that is legal. It's still best only to use it on private property, not while driving, because it's distracting, and the 80s are long gone, as much as they were the best time to live. Or at very least, grow up. Oh, Radix wanted to know what the, and I'll have to ask that. You know what? You can get Brian Max on Twitter, and he is a fairly responsive individual. Why don't you ask that question to him directly and tag me, because I'd love to know his answer, because I don't think I've ever asked him that question. But the pro driver is Brian Max, and you can actually see, because I've been tweeting back and forth with him. If you go to if you go to VoiceOver Cop, you will see on Twitter, VoiceOver Cop on Twitter, you'll see he and I are chatting, and you can jump onto the conversation and ask that very question. That would be my suggestion. What is this? Passing turning left car on the dirt shoulder to get around legal. I have to think about shoulder. The deal with passing a vehicle that is stopped waiting to make a left turn or approaching to make a left turn and slowing down is legal in certain circumstances. I think it requires a paved shoulder. It's not a common thing here. Let me have a quick look. Let me see what it says, because there is a thing that it says. And we need to go to the Highway Traffic Act. Passing right. Looking. Passing. There's a lot of passing. Pass street car. No, that's not it. How have I passed this? Obviously, I have. Come on. How is it I can't find it? On right. Pass on right, because I typed in passing, and that obviously made it that pass on right. Okay, here's the wording. Pass on right, not in safety. The driver of a motor vehicle may overtake and pass the... Let's try this one more time. The driver of a motor vehicle may overtake and pass to the right of another vehicle only where the movement can be made in safety and the vehicle overtaken is making or about to make a left turn, or its driver has signaled his or her intention to make a left turn, is made on a highway with an unobstructed pavement of sufficient width for two or more lines of vehicles in each direction, or is made on a highway designed for the use of one-way traffic only. Dirt would suggest that's not included, so I would say you could not do that. There you go. Right. All righty then. Oh, we got a bunch of stuff going on here. Holy moly. A question for not having a front bumper. I think it would be going to unsafe vehicle. I don't think it's a no front bumper charge. I think there's a front bumper charge. Bumper. I don't see a bumper charge. By searching bumper. Fender? No, it's not. Fender's not a bumper. I would say it would fall into the category of unsafe. I think that you would not be able to certify a vehicle without a front bumper. Thus, it would be an unsafe motor vehicle. So it's going to depend on what the officer sees, knows, interprets, and so on. But what would an unsafe vehicle charge look like? Well, that is a different thing. Operate unsafe motor vehicle, it's 84 sub 1. And there's no set fine. Let's go to court and articulate it. Let me see here. Did I say 84 sub 1? There's a lot of HTA here. 84.1. No. I don't want to reload this again. I need to read a little more to find out what the range of what that fine would be. But it would be more than $110. It's not a set fine. Okay. Hey, while I'm scrolling through stuff I've not yet talked about, we do this Monday to Friday, but I'm not here tomorrow. I am back on Monday, and we'll be returning Monday to continue the chitter-chatter about traffic stuff and things. Yes. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff, and occasionally have people pop into the live and, talk about race cars. I'm really looking forward to Honda Indy, and reminder to myself that I have to send an email to Michael right after we get off the show. Falcon Wings wants to know my question. Please explain the difference between lane filtering and lane splitting. Allowed in Ontario? Lane filtering is generally through stopped traffic. Lane splitting is generally through moving traffic. Neither are legal in Ontario or Canada as a whole. It is considered a dangerous practice. It is legal in California, in a number of states, in Europe. My understanding is in France, in places like Australia. And there's arguments for both sides of it, but it is illegal here, thus you cannot do it legally because it's illegal. I don't have, personally, as a rider for many, many years, I have less of an issue with lane filtering than I do with lane splitting. Lane splitting, and the biggest problem we have here is that it's done at high speed. A differential in speed is where the biggest concern is. And doing some digging this morning, I saw that statistically, riders are more often running into people when they're lane splitting, or at least twice the chances of rear-ending somebody than not. Makes sense. Higher risk. If you look at the California Highway Patrol website, they even describe it as dangerous and suggest high. What do they actually say? Basically, use caution. And it's legal there, but they still say it's dangerous because it is. Someone wants to know, Tyler wants to know about fenders and tires, and I still don't have a specific number, and I've talked about it many, many times. Technically, it should be covered. I understand that there might be a leeway of a quarter inch. I don't have that on paper. I would aim to always have your tires covered completely. If you look at any, even off-roady vehicle from a factory, it's going to be covered. They should not be protruding. Okay. Abbas says, can a new G2 driver drive on the highway alone whenever he wants? Can I drive night and day? As a new G2 driver, so as a G1, you have restrictions. You cannot be on a highway, a controlled access highway. You can't be on a road that has a speed limit over 80 kilometers an hour, except for a couple of other exemptions. As a G2 driver, you're a conditional, or you are effectively given all the rights and freedoms of a G-class driver, except you must test to keep permanent. You must maintain a 0 BAC, and in the first year, you have limitations as to how many people under the age of 20 you can have in your motor vehicle between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. But you can drive anywhere. You can even drive in the United States, and yes, you can drive 24 hours a day. Whereas with a learner's permit, G1, maybe you didn't know this, you cannot drive between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m. Truth. Michael says, testing and education standards are too low in Canada and the United States in relation to driving. And I agree with you. I don't know about the United States, but certainly in Canada. I think you're right, Michael. I was struggling with the whole, I don't know, I think it's 20, over 21, not 21 and over. And I have talked about it, but it never ceases to mess me up. You're right, it's 22 and up. Thank you. Oh, dad joke is a good way to start ending the show. That's now 18 minutes into the next hour. Dad joke from Zombie. I used to have a job making calendars, but I got fired for taking a few days off. I like it. I like it a lot. Okay. Oh, Mike O'Hara, in relation to barefoot driving, says it's illegal in New Brunswick. Good to know. I did not know that. I thank you for sharing your knowledge. I love the fact that we have listeners from all over the place, because I would never know that. I would assume, that stuff like that really wouldn't be an issue. As much as it's a bad idea, I would never thought it was something that would be a thing. And way back, one of the first videos that I published was talking about the interior light on in the car. So, Mike, are you allowed to have the interior lights on in your motor vehicle in New Brunswick? Because here you can. But when I put that video up, I had people stitching from across the United States saying, my mama lied to me. And I tell you, my parents told me it was illegal. I grew up thinking it was illegal, both barefoot and interior light on. I thought they were both illegal. And it wasn't until becoming a learned HTA person that I found out that it's not illegal. There's no charge applicable. Oh, here's a question from Steffi. I'm a car seat technician. Does Toronto Police or OPP still provide car seat help? Are they certified? We used to have car seat clinics where we instructed. We never installed. Well, back in the day when I first did it, I was a St. John's ambulance installer, certified by them, and then I would do the installation, and that was it. We determined that we don't want to actually install for people. We want to teach them how to install it as a demonstration, then remove it and have them install it and ensure that they're doing it correctly. Now, we used to run a program. We do not currently run a program, and it was something that fell apart during COVID because our folks are no longer certified, and the auxiliary program that used to handle all these is not active in the same way doing it. They're not certified. So we want to get people certified. We'd love to bring that back to the City of Toronto. The suggestion, of course, of what we do, or the suggestion that we're making is contact CPSAC to be referred to a technician, either online or in person, to get the help you need in that regard. But stay tuned. I hope that we can bring that back at some point, but we don't have the person power to do it right now. Akela Dracona says bare feet, like bear, like polar bear. Let's see here. Will OPP ever do anything to someone going 100 in the left lane and not allowing them to pass? They absolutely will. I've heard stories of them charging people for doing 105 in the left lane because there's a line which I don't necessarily agree with, but apparently it says that slower traffic must stay to the right. And to some degree, I get it. But if you are doing 105, you're already speeding. You're breaking the law. If someone wants to go faster, they should lose their license, not get you a ticket. That's just me. I would never lay a charge of against someone who's doing the speed limit because the person who wants to have a space to get past and go beyond the speed limit. So will the OPP write you a ticket for being a left lane camper? Yeah, they will, even if you're camping at the speed limit. I don't make the rules. Okay. I'm doing Police Foundations course at Humber. Can I apply to the police force right out of after I grad or no? Jay, if you can pass the tests required to join today, you can apply today. You don't have to graduate. Is graduating a great idea? Sure it is. If you can get hired today, get hired today. Apply. It's like winning the lottery. If you get it now before you graduate, you can always continue your education part-time afterwards. So I would 100% suggest if you can pass today, apply today. We are hiring. What a great segue into we are hiring. Button press. Shazam. I make myself laugh, even if I make nobody else laugh. Here's the deal. Careers are posted, our careers page, tps.ca/careers. All the information you ever wanted to know and more. Police constable, parking enforcement, special constable, communications operator. These are the detail pages. Everything you need to know about hiring or the hiring process. And what is not there, you can call a recruiter and talk to them about it. Their contact information is there too. Now, auxiliaries, volunteer positions currently posted. Digital developer team or digital team developer. So these are non-uniform civilian jobs for the most part. Benefits administrator, analyst, parking enforcement officer is uniform, but it's not a sworn member, not a police officer. Senior analyst, senior programmer, solutions architect, communications operator. These are the people that answer your 911 call and they're the call taker side, and then they pass it over to a dispatcher. These are jobs we need to fill. So if you'd like to become a member of the Toronto Police Service, a fantastic place to work, you should go to tps.ca and go /careers, where you will get all that information. And you can apply online. And don't dilly-dally. If you're interested, do it now, because these postings will be removed or will close. For instance, solutions architect. That posting is closing June 30th. So if you don't apply, you don't get to compete for that position. And if you show up on the next day, you will not. Your application will not be accepted. What is this? Can you legally plate a dirt bike or off-road vehicle to use within a city the size of Toronto? It depends on the city and municipality if they allow them. Well, no, let me rephrase. Dirt bikes cannot be used on the road in Ontario, period. When you talk about other off-road vehicles, we don't allow them here, but ATVs in some municipalities are permitted on the road with conditions. The only time you can have a dirt bike on the road is when you are crossing a road between, I guess, trails or fields or whatever you're doing at a 90-degree angle, and even then you must have a license to do that. Okay. Akela says, and appropriately, stay safe and don't have a good day. Have a great week. I won't be here tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday. What's this? We got that. We got this. We got who? We got. Can a side-by-side be registered for regular road use? Depends on the jurisdiction of whether or not they allow them. They are not permitted in Toronto, but they can be plated and used in certain municipalities. Oh, interesting question from Michael Hara. On tints, if a vehicle that comes from the factory OEM with illegal tint, what's the process? Can it be seized, destroyed? Is there a recourse for the vehicle manufacturer if the car is illegal in Canada? You wouldn't be able to buy a factory vehicle with illegal tints. Like if you're selling a vehicle in Ontario, it must be legal in order to for a dealership to sell it. I suppose it's up to the buyer, not the manufacturer. No, it's up to the manufacturer. If you're gonna, I don't know any particular situation where they would be just. If you're buying a used car, it's up to you to know. If you're buying a new car, the dealership that's importing and putting in for sale, they're required to sell those vehicles that are legal for the road here, especially if they're going to facilitate safetying. What's up? Not much. You're late to the party, but you're here. Thanks for saying hello. The Grinch says hello. Thank you. We have roundabouts. Who has the right of way when entering or leaving them? As I find many people struggling with this, especially ones over by Collingwood that are 2 lanes deep. I don't have a lot of experience with 2-lane ones, but anyone who's in the roundabout has priority over those entering. You must yield to the people in the roundabout, and that's the problem. I find that's a game of chicken. If you go to our YouTube page, you'll see the episode I just did with Turf talking about roundabouts, and yeah, game of chicken. Some people just enter the roundabout. They don't care. They don't wait. They're not paying attention. They have no idea what they're doing. Let's see here. Interior lights. So, and this is, again, out of province, but interesting to know whether or not it's actually. I have to find out what the actual wording is for the act where you are. But yeah, it could negatively impact your vision, which could be careless driving, I guess, but not specifically illegal. All right, with that, I will thank you for spending time with us. It is always fun. It is always a pleasure to be able to spend time with all of you. And with that, we're going to say goodbye for the weekend, be back on Monday. Before I do that, I must read you the signs. No, not the signs, the jokes. What do all ninjas wear to work? I like this. Sneakers. Because they sneak around. Okay, it's not the best. Tomorrow's joke today. The Friday joke. Dad, I really want to play guitar really badly. Well, anyone can play a guitar really badly. Playing it well takes practice. I actually like that one a lot. What do we have here? Saturday, Sunday. Do we do Saturday, Sunday, or do we leave that for Monday? Depends on how good this joke is. I'm going to pre-read and qualify it. Huh. Okay. Maybe I'll leave it for. I'm going to leave it for Monday. Listen, if you're going to be out and about and having fun in the sun this weekend, I hope the weather is nice. I hope that you are safe and sound and having a good time. But drive sober, stay safe, park legally. I throw that in there for Aaron because we need to represent our parking enforcement, our motives. Parking enforcement are the unsung heroes of the Toronto Police. They do not get the credit they deserve. They keep our city moving. They really do. Picture a world where parking was not being enforced and no one was motivated to move out of the way. They just left their cars everywhere. That is a horror film. That would be my horror film, the scariest thing possible. That's it. I'm out of here. Have a great weekend.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk. that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
And that's it. I like that comment, though. That increase of roundabouts in Ontario should be more added to the driving. I think so. I think education in general we can improve, because that's how we make things better. We teach people. Of course, education through enforcement also works. You certainly get an education when you get a ticket reminding you not to do that again. Either way, have a great weekend, everybody.